She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. Thanks so much for joining us today. You know, here on this show, we are talking to you about your success and success from a holistic approach. What do I mean by that? It's your everything. It is your spiritual life. It is your personal health. It is your finances and creating wealth. It is your job performance or work performance with your business or with your employees. It is also the most important relationships in your life, which is your marriage if you have one and kids if you have them, as well as how much fun you're having and adventure that you're having in your life. If you're just a boring hermit that's avoiding everyone you're living with and working with, that is not success, but yet you could be making a lot of money. That's not success at all. That life sucks, to be honest with you. How do I know? Because I lived it before. So anyway, we are talking about topics. Every single day, we're bringing you topics that are to help you improve your life, to help you reach the level of success you desire. Not the level of success that somebody else tells you should have, but the level of success that you actually want. So today's topic is about sex. Yep, S-E-X. You just got nervous. Don't get nervous. It's actually sex and your kids. Are you depending on the school system to educate your children on sex? Well, if you are, I just want you to know Planned Parenthood is right behind that. And you might be a pro-Planned Parenthood person, or you might be a no-way Planned Parenthood person. But what I can tell you is years ago, I interviewed a woman who used to run. She worked at the very top echelon of Planned Parenthood. And she came on the show and said, our plan from Parenthood was to indoctrinate the children at 5 years old. Yes! Our whole plan was to get them actually engaging in sex somewhere around 12 so that we would have more business. Wow. For abortions. That was their entire plan for abortions, and abortions that these teenagers were having that their parents did not know about. This woman actually got on this show right here, the Dani Johnson Show, and exposed all of that. Now, since that time, she worked with that for 20 years. Since that time, she decided this is not the way I want to go. And now she is blowing the whistle on that inner game and those inner strategies. And she got on the show to warn parents. Please talk to your kids about sex. Please have that intimate conversation with them. Please guide them, because they are being programmed to be sexual at the age of 5. Wow. So listen, if your plan for sex education is the school, friend, wake up. Wake up. Don't be stupid. The fact is that 98% of the population ends up failing by the age of 65, depending on their family, friends, and federal government for their main source of income. You're Dani, what does sex have to do with income? Everything. Has everything to do with it. Everything. When people have made poor sexual choices, like I did. Come on, I was a teen pregnancy. Pregnant at 17, homeless by 21. I was a floozy, I was a whore, I was the slut, I was all of it. My mom and dad never had the sex conversation with me. I was molested from the time I was 3 until I was 16. And I went the way that half of the girls go. That if you've been molested, you become incredibly promiscuous, or you shut down and you're a frigid broad, big giant ice cube that no one wants to touch. I was the promiscuous one. I was crazy, and I hurt my body, and I hurt a lot of other people. I was even raped and gang raped, friend. Yes. Why? All boils down to being molested. All boils down to being in a home where there was no discussion about anything sexual. I wasn't trained. I wasn't equipped. My mom asked me at 14 if I wanted to get on the pill, and I said, what pill? For what? She goes, never mind. She knew, and I'm like, what pill? What are you talking about? You know, get on the birth control. I'm like, why? Why would I get on birth control? That was my sex ed right there. That was it. Conversation over. And so I have to tell you, and there's a reason why we're doing today's show. Recently, we did our Hot Marriage Secrets event. It was a small event with only 500 people allowed in that event, about 200 couples, and the rest were, anyway, it doesn't matter. We had some singles that were at that event as well, about 50 of them. Anyway, I asked the room when we began this event, how many of your parents did not talk to you about sex? almost every single hand in the room of 500 adults raised their hands. Their parents never had that discussion with them. Okay. I also asked how many of you have had challenges in your marriage and how many of you have issues concerning sex. Almost the whole room's hands went up in the air. We're talking, it was just a few people that their parents had an open and honest, yes, uncomfortable, but as the conversation continued, got more comfortable, conversation about sex. So I want to help to equip you today to have that conversation, for you to be able to be your kid's advocate. Be their advocate. They're having the conversation with other people. They're having the conversation with people who have no experience. They're having the conversation. They're learning things from the media that could torment them for the rest of their life. You cannot forfeit your job and your responsibility as a parent. You cannot. You have to stop that nonsense. Wake up, smell the homas, and understand it is your job, and your kids are wanting to hear it from you. Even though they say, ew, gross, nonsense. They want to hear it from you. Here's some proof. 52% of the children ages 12 to 15 said their parents have the most influence in their lives when it comes to sex, with friends being far behind at 17%. That's by powertodecide.org that did that study. You matter, and your opinion matters, and how you present it matters. So don't be the ignorant parent, another ignorant parent that doesn't know how to talk about it. After today's show, you have no excuse. So we've got some people, we've asked our audience who is having that conversation of sex or who needs help having that conversation of sex with their kids. So we've got the phone lines completely jam-packed right now. We've got Yvonne Howder, who is first from Charlotte, North Carolina. What is your take on this? Do you believe that you should have this conversation with kids? If so, have you had this conversation?
Yes. I believe we should have the conversation, and I have raised 2 children to adulthood, and I have a 14-year-old at home still. We told our kids pretty young, they were 5 and 7, about it. I happened to be pregnant at the time, which was kind of a lot of questions going on anyway. With the 2 older ones, and so. But an incident happened in our home where I had to break the silence and talk to my kids about what a friend of theirs had said in our home, who had been sexually abused, and it came out in our home. Well, it started to panic me because I was like, well, my kids go to this child's home, and what friend of theirs is doing that to her? Yeah. I need to talk to my kids. Yeah. So we sat them down, kind of went through it. I looked up a book. My neighbor had a book. It's an old book, probably not as current as for today, but I read them the book. I think it was called How You Talk to Your Kids About Sex. It was kind of a cartoon book. I read the book to them. We had a discussion. My oldest was in 2nd grade at the time. He had already come home from 2nd grade, kind of like doing little innuendos of something his friends in his peer group had older brothers that were in 6th grade at the school who had been through the sex ed program. So they were like coming out of school kind of laughing about, an erection or making little remarks about that. And so he was already learning, but he wasn't learning from me. And so he wasn't learning from my husband. And we kind of said, we need to be the ones to take charge of this. So we talked to him. We read the book. And afterwards, reading the book, their expressions were really cute. They were genuine. But I did talk to them because I think it's every parent's responsibility to talk to their kids. And my kids were learning from somebody else's kids. And so I explained to them, I said, this isn't a secret. This is just something that's really special that parents and children should be discussing in their homes. So when I talk to you about it in our home, that doesn't mean you go and tell your friends about that at school. Because you take that special time away from those parents to have with their children. And I just really wanted them to understand that it's not a secret.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
It's special.
Sacred.
It's special.
It's special.
And it loses its special. Yep, it's good.
Yeah, and so I really wanted to make that point come across to them that you can ask us questions, you can come to us at any moment.
Okay, so I want to get down to the nitty gritty, Yvonne, because somebody is listening right now that doesn't have the book, How to Talk to Your Kids About Sex. In fact, I want to see if we can find the author of that book and maybe interview that person on this show. I think that would be so fun. So come on, give me some nitty gritty. How did you break the ice? How did you talk to your second grader and 5-year-old about sex while you were pregnant? How did you explain it?
Well, we explained it as the same terminology as a doctor would tell a child or tell an adult, that a man has a sperm and a woman has an egg, and when those two meet...
but how do they meet, Mommy?
It's life form.
How do they meet?
And the book goes into it, and I said, the penis goes into the vagina. It's a special moment that the parents have together. It's intimate, and it's in the book it talks about how they go to soccer and they do practice and they come home and then they do other things. So like sex isn't something someone does all the time. It's something that's kind of special. In the book it kind of explained that. And so it kind of put it in terminology that the kids, started to figure it out. What was interesting about the whole thing was the next day, I'm with my son in the car and we're driving, and boys usually tend to talk to you as a parent when you're side by side than face to face. And he goes, Mom, you know that book you read to us last night? And I'm like, well, yeah. He goes, I knew it. And I said, what do you mean you knew it? He goes, it's like a puzzle. They fit together perfectly. and so, it just, to me, it just like, okay, it worked. It worked. Yeah. It completely worked. We talked about,
well, it is a puzzle, and it does fit perfectly together, which is really awesome. And for somebody that doesn't have the book, that's a great way to explain it as well. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Man was made for woman, and they come together, and they become one flesh, and then they produce one flesh. And that's why you're here, my son, is because you're a combination of your mom and dad. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more. Are you having that sex talk with your kids, or are you leaving it up to the government? This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue after this.
Do you know how to have the talk with your kids about sex? When we come back, Dani will show you what she said and how it worked out. Did you know you can take the Dani Johnson Show with you wherever you go? It's never been easier to stay up to date with the latest content from Dani with the DaniJohnson.com app. Watch or listen in the car, at the gym, or on the go. Download it now from the App Store and Google Play and never miss a show again. Your family, business, and bank account will thank you.
Imagine living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel made of waste material on top of old mining tunnels that could explode and sink your home at any moment. Imagine no water to drink, no safe place to raise your children, no food for your starving baby. Imagine that your kids can't learn to read because they have to work to support the family instead of going to school. Could you imagine living in that kind of fear and hopelessness? This is exactly what poverty-stricken families are dealing with in Nicaragua. These families can barely meet their basic needs of food, clean water, and safe housing. But a miracle is in the making, and you can be a part of transforming Nicaragua. Be a part of this miracle. I want you to go to the website now and learn how you can help. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Nicaragua. There you can join with other warriors against poverty and help bring a miraculous transformation. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org. Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. The most common question I get usually are from people who are trying to juggle their life. They've got kids who are involved in all kinds of activities. They've got business or their job, finances, trying to get out of debt, plus all their church activities and all the volunteer activities, and they're pulling their hair out going, how do I juggle this all? Man, I once lived just like that until I learned Time Secrets. Time Secrets showed me how to be able to cut my hours from 100 hours a week that I was working down to 20 hours a week and tripled my income as a direct result with what I learned. Time Secrets also showed me how to get my priorities in order, which healed up my marriage. And I became a mother that I was proud of versus becoming the mother I didn't want to be. And so if you feel like your world is running around in all kinds of different circles, you can fix that. Call 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880 for Time Secrets.
And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
So, the statistics are kind of sad. You know, there was something that was very important in our culture and for thousands of years before that, and that was someone's purity. Well, better said, virginity. Somebody who kept themselves for their marriage bed, protected and honored their body for the marriage bed. I'm sad to say that I did not do that. In fact, the average American loses their virginity at 17 years old. Boom! Yeah, I was pregnant at 17. By 20 and 24 years old, only 12.3% of unmarried women and 14.3% of unmarried men are virgins. And I'm happy to say that my daughter, Erica, made it to the altar a virgin with her husband, Zach, who was also a virgin. My son, Cabe, lost his virginity with his wife, Lauren. My son, Roman, when he married his beautiful virgin wife, Rachel. These guys all took a different path than what their parents, and I'm happy to say they're in that top tiny little percentage because they made that commitment. And why? We talked about sex very openly throughout their entire childhood. It was not talked about from a medical position, but it was talked about as a place of love and passion and a privilege between a husband and a wife, and that God blesses that marriage sex relationship between the husband and a wife. And I openly explained to my kids that I had slept around with a lot of people and I gave my body over to people that were not my husband, people that I was not in a committed relationship with. And all the problems, I told the truth from my experience about what had happened to me and the complications of it, as well as my firstborn child, who they knew about. Obviously, it's their older sister, and all of the problems and complications that happened as a direct result of me engaging in a sexual relationship before I was married. And that for the rest of my life, Christina's father, I will always be connected to him and his family because I had sex out of marriage. And not only that, but it hurt my daughter. It hurt my oldest daughter. It complicated her life. I made the biggest mess and suffered great pain. She suffered great pain. He suffered great pain because we decided to have sex out of marriage, thinking that I'm not going to get pregnant. We used a so-called method. Can I say that? I'm not even sure. Well, I'm just going to say it. He pulled out. I still got pregnant. So if that's the kind of method you think that you're going to skate by and not get pregnant, try again. My daughter Christina was born from that method. Not a sure method. The only method that's going to work to not get pregnant is to not have sex. That's really the method, the best method, the only sure method. Well, I guess if you don't have a uterus, that might help. But I don't recommend taking that thing out. Not before you have a half a dozen kids or something. Anyway, the bottom line is this. This talk today on the Dani Johnson Show is to help you raise a successful family. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be millionaires unless, of course, that's what they want to become. But what it does mean is that you're defining success for you. And if you have not included your family in your success picture, and if you have not included your parenting into your successful picture, then you have an incomplete success picture. It's not balanced. And you being able to have the courage and the wisdom to have that very tough conversation with your kids about sex, then you have the courage and the wisdom to have other tough conversations, things that they need to know about, including tough conversations to have with your spouse and your coworkers if you have a job or a business. So this is about you learning how to step in that wild side and have that very uncomfortable conversation with your kids, because you got to. You are their advocate. You are not their friend. And you are allowing their friends to talk to them about sex, and their friends don't know squat about sex. You have the opportunity to shape their mind about how they will see it. Either they will see it medicinally if you sell it to them under a medicinal terms, or you can skate around the bush a little bit and not even get down to the nitty-gritty of what it really is all about. Or you can paint the picture of the beautiful, glorious, fun, amazing, passionate, joyful time that you get to have when you get married, and that if you choose to protect your honor, then this is one great place where God can bless you and your future wife, if it's your son, or your future husband, if it's your daughter, that the two of you are going to be able to engage in something that only the two of you have together, and that it is more special when you don't have that thing with other people. It's so much more special. There's so much trust. There's so much more respect that is engaged there. And you guys get to know each other in so much more of a powerful way than you would that if you don't protect that thing. So anyway, we're going to continue to talk about this. We've got some people that are calling in to either ask questions about how do I have that conversation, or they're telling us how they had that conversation. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more after this.
Be sure to tell a friend about the Dani Johnson Show. It just might be the key to the breakthrough they need.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
Did you know you can see Dani Johnson live and in person? Go to DaniJohnson.com and find out about our next live event. First Steps to Success. Register today. Call 866-760-8255 or go to DaniJohnson.com/FSTS.
Prior to getting to Dani Johnson's First Steps to Success, my husband and I were completely broke. We just filed bankruptcy. We lost our home to foreclosure, and we were on food stamps. After the second day of her event, we figured out where all our money was going. We got ourselves out of debt in 3 months. We paid off $18,000 worth of debt and are completely debt-free. And now we've finally created a life of our dreams. We've made a 6-figure business, and we're just doing everything that we want. So if you're thinking about coming to First Steps to Success, you've got to make it happen. Sign up right now and make sure you don't miss it.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, I was hopelessly lost in addiction. My relationships with people, coworkers, family, friends failed. I was struggling under the bondage of debt, and I had no clear vision or purpose for my life. After attaining my first steps to success, I've been able to pay off $7,000 in debt in about 4.5 months. I have a clear vision and purpose for my life. I can honestly say that my addictions are a thing of the past. If you're interested in changing your life in whatever way, in whatever area, you need to log into DaniJohnson.com, and you need to be at the next First Steps to Success.
Prior to coming to First Steps, I was miserable. I never talked to people because I thought I was shy, I thought I was boring, and I thought that I was destined to be alone forever. After coming to First Steps to Success, I broke through all of those lies. I built confidence, and I used the skills that I've learned there to get myself an amazing job where I will be put quickly into a position of leadership. So if you're ready to find out who you are, why you are the way you are, and how to get new skills to dramatically change your life, you need to join me at the very next First Steps to Success. No excuses, no delays, get registered now.
Hi, my name is Paul. I'm from Massachusetts. And before plugging into DaniJohnson.com, I was buried under a sea of self-doubt, fear, and my communication skills were non-existent. Sales non-existent as well. But after attending First Steps to Success, My sales have quadrupled. My fear has been lifted, and my relationships are better than ever because I communicate better than ever. If you want your life to turn around, all your dreams start coming to fruition, you are going to be at first steps to success.
Prior to plugging in to Dani Johnson, my husband and I were drowning in a sea of debt. I had broken relationships all around me of the ones that I cared most about, and I had started a company that was losing more money than it was making. And after plugging into Dani Johnson, we have paid off $196,000 in 13 months. My company has grown 90%, and I have relationships that I could never have even imagined with the ones I care most about around me. So I don't know about you. Maybe you're making all the money you need to. Maybe you're doing great. Maybe your relationships are phenomenal. But if they're not, I encourage you to get to the next first steps to success.
What multimillionaire do you know that volunteers their time to help ordinary people like you and me? There's only one. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
All right, friend, it's time. It's time. You got little kids, they got to know about sex. It's your job to tell them about it, not somebody else's. That's what we're talking about today. And you might be saying, Dani, please, talk about business. Can you talk about money? I do talk about money and business. Monday, money, business tip Tuesday. But this is about family. And we're doing this show on a Friday. Get it? Family Friday. And your kids are part of your family. And it is important that you step up to the plate and be responsible and paint the picture that is necessary for them to get it, so that they're not learning it from some yahoo 6-year-old who is talking about something happening in his pants. Give me a break. All right, so we're going to the phones. Angie? Is it Angie? Angie Wright from Knoxville, Tennessee. Hi, Angie.
Hey, how are you?
Okay, are you talking to your kids about sex?
Yes. Well, my kids are grown now. I only have one more at home. He's 16, and the other two are 24 and 23. I also had them at 17 and 18, and I was always candid about sex. And like you said, I think the reason that I didn't follow the God route and talk about spirituality with them and waiting, which I wish I had, but I didn't. I talked to them more candidly about, I was 17 and I've been struggling my whole life to raise you financially because what I made was a decision to have you and to raise you and to keep you and to love you, but now I'm struggling. So what I need you to do is the opposite, and to be smart and to not have kids before you're financially ready, and to not put yourself in a position where you have to worry about how are the bills going to get paid, or whether you need to pay the rent or the light bill, or if you get to eat or you feed the kids instead. Those just aren't decisions that I wanted my kids to ever have to make. And so for that reason, I've been candid with them. And even my 16-year-old now, I want to be the first call he makes if there's an incident. I don't want him to
an incident? Mom, having sex is not an incident.
Well, a broken condom is an incident.
No. A broken condom is a mess.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But either way, I want to be that phone call.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about this. Now, I love it that you've been transparent with your kids about your choices and the consequences that you endured because of, you deciding to have sex at 17 and getting pregnant.
Yes.
And I did the same thing. But at the same time, when we are not fully educating them, even on sexually transmitted diseases, right? And or talking to them about abortion and, how many women that can't have children now because they had one abortion. Just how complicated, the multiple different facets that having sex out of marriage actually brings into your life. Not only that, but sex out of marriage just promotes a habit that even after you're married, you desire sex out of marriage. Getting married doesn't change anything. But there's a habit that's been set that if you're having sex out of marriage, what does a piece of paper change of that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And there's studies have been proven that people who have sex before marriage, that they tend to have sex out of marriage. So,
it makes perfect sense. I never actually married. I've been a single mom my whole entire life, and so I never actually married. So I don't even. It makes sense. It makes complete sense.
She's like, I am that statistic.
I've always been a statistic.
Wow.
My whole entire life.
Wow. Wow. Well, I'm really proud of you as a single mom that you've had that conversation. Now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty on the conversation, okay? Because you said you have had the conversation. So from one step, it's about, no, you need to be financially sound. Okay, but what else have you told them about sex?
Well, obviously the STD part, we've had that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Birth control, I'm a huge advocate. I am not I'm not super religious. I'm spiritual, but I'm also, I know that my kids go to public school. I know the influences that are out there. So I have always gone with the, when you start having sex, if you're not going to wait, I want to know, because I want to make sure that everybody's safe. So for my son, I make sure that he's got protection at all times. For his girlfriend, I make sure that we're having the talk with her mother and that she knows what's happening and that there is birth control, because even though I don't want them to have sex, and I really don't think that making sure that they're protected is encouraging it, which some people do believe that.
No, it is. It's definitely encouraging that, meaning it's giving them the okay to do it. But let me ask you this question. Why did you use the excuse that your sons are in a public school as an excuse that they would be sexually active?
Not as an excuse. I'm not using it
because there's plenty of kids who go to a public school. I know 3 of them. No, I know many of them, actually. I have family members, and I have my girlfriend Mona, whose kids also went to a public school, big public school, where everyone was sexually active. These 3 married virgins.
Right, and that's great. That's great. I'm just saying, statistically speaking, if they're in a...
But Angie, you're not answering my question. You're not answering my question. Why did you use the excuse that your kids are in a public school? And why did you use the statistics as an excuse for you not to hold the bar of waiting?
Well, I didn't wait.
So why did you use that as an excuse? Why use that as an excuse?
I don't think it's an excuse.
It's not?
I just think...
What? Here, no. Hold on. Yes, it is. You had it formed in your mind that your boys were not going to wait.
Well, I think I have it formed in my mind that most kids these days don't wait.
You're right. But why did you want to raise most kids?
I don't know. I guess I was just trying to do the best that I could with what I had, and that was the least of my worries, them waiting. I guess it was more important that they just didn't have children versus them waiting until they got married.
Right. Okay. I hear you, and I appreciate your transparency greatly. And as somebody else that is listening, what I'm challenging you to do, because you and I both were single moms, okay? I was a single mom. You were a single mom. I was a single mom for a lot of years, actually. I can't even believe that I have really never said that. I was a single mom for a lot of years. And when I decided that, man, when I looked at how I got myself in all this mess and all this trouble that by the way, I'm going to suffer from for the rest of my life. I will. I am getting better at handling it. I'm not as dramatic about it. I'm not as, I don't beat myself up anymore about it, thank God. But every time I see my daughter make choices that are incredibly painful for her and everyone else that is around her, it just goes back to, well, you know, well, you know what I mean? She was adopted. She was given up, sadly, against my will. I was totally manipulated and made the worst choice of my life. And I put her in the arms of somebody else who had a completely different mindset on raising kids. And I love those people. We just have a different value system. And so what I'm saying to the person right now, because there's a single mom that's listening who also, you know, obviously had sex out of marriage, as I had lots of sex out of marriage, even though, Angie, you've not been married, I'm pretty confident, and sadly, that I probably slept with more people. Sadly, completely disgusting and wrong. But the fact is, thank God I didn't get pregnant on all those other ones. Lord have mercy. But anyway, so we have two different moms that were single moms, right? And we both had a kid out of wedlock. And Angie, in her mind, was like, man, as long as my kids don't get somebody pregnant, then we did good. And that's okay. I think that was a good gauge, and thank God you had conversations about it. But I'm going to challenge that single mom to say, hey, what if you went just one step higher and said, you know what? The easiest way not to complicate your life is to just abstain. And that save yourself and give the greatest gift you possibly can for the beautiful wife that you will embrace one day. Don't be like all the other guys out there who are out sleeping around with everybody and counting them and making themselves feel in the moment like they're so hot to trot because they ain't. Find out what everybody else is doing and do the exact opposite. The current statistics are that 86% of all guys are going to lose their virginity by the time they're 17. Do you want to be like everybody else and end up with what everyone else ends up with? Or do you want to be in that top percentage who has greater success because you set yourself apart and that you chose not to treat women that way? I got to tell you something, Angie. This is really interesting. My son, Roman, you know, he's hilarious, first of all. And he just got married. And he is a very attractive, both of them, all three of my boys, very attractive men. Like, oh gosh, scary attractive. And do you know that my son Roman, when he would be around coworkers with him, he had a season where he worked at Domino's, he managed at Domino's, and they would come back talking, the guys would come back talking about who they were sleeping with and everything, and just talking trash about women and their bodies and, you know, who they got laid by the last night. And then, and they were like, so Roman, what about you? And they said, dude, I am incredibly attracted to a virgin, the one virgin that I am actually going to marry. So I'm not giving my body over to any other girl. I'm saving myself. I am not at all stimulated or turned on by sleeping around before I get married. That kid set the stage.
And that is amazing. And I also think you said a very important word.
Hold on one second. I want to hear what you have to say. We got to cut to a break, and we're going to come right back. This is Dani Johnson. We're talking about sex and your kids. We'll return right after this.
There's one thing Angie wishes she had done differently, but would it have mattered? Find out next on The Dani Johnson Show. Did you know you can take The Dani Johnson Show with you wherever you go? It's never been easier to stay up to date with the latest content from Dani with the DaniJohnson.com app. Watch or listen in the car, at the gym, or on the go. Download it now from the App Store and Google Play and never miss a show again. Your family, business, and bank account will thank you. Did you know you can see Dani Johnson live and in person? Go to DaniJohnson.com and find out about our next live event. First steps to success. Register today. Call 866-760-8255 or go to DaniJohnson.com/FSTS.
My name is Mario Johns. I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania. And I just want to share with you on April 14, 2013, that was the first day I heard the name Dani Johnson. And I was so inspired by her story, and I just had to find out, you know, how did she go from homeless to millionaire? And it was just so inspiring to me. So I went on DaniJohnson.com, and I started getting the daily emails, the daily fixes. And then after a while, I just stopped reading them for some reason. And August of 2013, it was 4 days before my first event. After work, I went on YouTube, and I typed in Dani Johnson's name, came to my mind, so I typed it in on YouTube, and I sat at my kitchen table for about an hour and just listened to testimonial after testimonial. And I was just so inspired. I'm like, I have to get to this first steps to success. And I had no money. I didn't know how I was going to get there. The funny thing was, a week prior to this day, I got a credit card in the mail that I never asked for. It was a $1,200 credit limit. I was going to cut it up, but I figured I'd save it for like the emergency. I got my event ticket, my flight, and my hotel room. I maxed that sucker out, and I came down to Dallas, Texas. And the first 3 hours of the first day, I was just like in tears the whole time. I was just so blown away. It was something that I was just so hungry for. And prior to plugging in, I was a depressed, hopeless, suicidal drug addict. I hated myself, I hated life, I hated other people. I felt like a slave to debt, and I actually accepted debt as part of my life. I had toxic relationships, and I was, and since plugging in, I've been drug-free for 15 and a half months now. I paid off over $13,000 worth of debt in a little over 13 months. I've completely restored my relationships with my family, my friends. I have amazing friends today from around the world. I love my life, and this is just an honor to be up on this stage. But if I just want to say, if you're new here, one thing that I wish I did is one of my favorite products is War on Debt, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't been following that as like I should be. My first event, if I got War on Debt and followed that with diligence, today I'd be debt free. So I just want to encourage you, if you're new here and you have debt, I highly recommend getting that, because that's by the end of this year I want to be debt free, and that's my goal. So please help me welcome back to the stage America's favorite millionaire, Dani Johnson.
The way you look at things is about to change. And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
So, you're either leaving it up to someone else to take care of your responsibility, and or maybe you have a mindset about your responsibility that you might want to rethink. It's not too late. You have a chance. I'm talking to Angie from Knoxville, Tennessee. And we're talking about, she's a single mom of 3 sons. So candid, so humble, Angie, that you are. And my hat's off to you. I can't even begin to understand having to raise, adult men, right? I mean, you've raised sons, they're totally grown, and you've been a single mom your entire life. That's a hard road to toe. So you were about to say something about where I was talking about my son Roman, who set the standard for everybody else. My son Cave did the same thing, by the way. He set the same exact stage where he made it cool to be a virgin. And that's what he set out to do. He's like, I'm going to influence all these guys to not be like everybody else. So what were you going to say to that, Angie?
What I was going to say, you were saying that if there was a single mom listening, you know, what to tell her. And I think you're exactly right. I think it's a value system. And I think that my value system was lacking growing up. And even, you know, as a young adult,
mine too.
I've had to pretty much, you know, find my way. And I guess because I didn't find my way into a church, that I probably am lacking in that value system. Not that I'm lacking values all the way around, but definitely in the sense that was not my priority when I was just trying to raise decent human beings. Yep. And for whatever reason, that was not on that list. And honestly, now that you mention it, I'm not sure why. And and if there is a single mom listening, then yes, definitely. And I have 2 sons and 1 daughter.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's it right there, is the value system or lack of it as I was raising children.
And I just want to tell you something. These statistics are in the church and out of the church. So don't think for a minute that if you raised your kids in church, they would have not had sex. No, the kids at church are having sex. Remember, I was one of those that went to church and his parents were the deacons. of the church. Do you understand? So the church thing, I'm sorry, I don't want to deceive you at all. And I didn't have the value system either. And sex was never talked about. Do you get it? It was never, and oftentimes it's not talked about in Christian homes. It's not talked about in non-Christian homes. What it's really about is this, and this is the conversation I have for both with my sons and my daughters, was that when you allow a man to touch you in a way that only your husband will touch you, then you've allowed him to dishonor your body and you've dishonored your own body. What makes a marriage work is respect and honor. Trust comes out of respect and honor. And when your body is touched in that way, outside of marriage, you feel disrespected and dishonored. So therefore, you're starting that relationship in dishonor and in disrespect. And it's really freaking hard to build that trust, respect, and honor. Trust me, I know. It's taken years, decades. It's pathetic how sad that is, right? And so I told my sons, you want a wife that's going to respect and honor you. And the only way you're going to get it is right here. It has to start on the right foundation by you protecting her honor. And if there's a girl that wants to get into your pants, you know that ain't the chick for you. You just say it like right now, like, no. If all she wants is to get into your pants, you're going to have to stand strong and just say, no, I'm sorry. But this part of my body is saved for the woman that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. And I'm not sure if you're that woman yet. And I've told my boys, like, you tell them, like, my job is to protect your honor. And it doesn't mean that my boys did not fail. Okay, they had moments of failure, no question. But thankfully. So anyway, you're right, it's about values. Values, yes, can come out of a church, but there's plenty of people that have values that don't go to church. Okay, so I don't want to, I'm not saying I'm against church. I'm not. I go to church, I raise my kids in church. But I did not at all depend on church to be the thing that taught them about sex, because it didn't. There were kids in church getting pregnant just like I was the teen pregnancy from my youth group. So anyway, great point, Angie. Man, your humility is amazing to me. Thanks so much for joining us today. God bless you. Okay, then we got Terri Harper from Atlanta, Georgia. Terri, what have you got to say about all this sex conversation with your kids?
Hi, Dani. How are you?
Awesome.
Well, my journey with talking to my girls specifically, I have 5 children, 2 girls, 3 boys.
Me too.
And exactly. And they're all gorgeous. And they, at the time, I've homeschooled all of them, all of their life. And now the 2 girls are now 19 and 22. But at the time, I chose to talk to them about the age of 10 because I knew that was the time they were going to start menstruating and having their, monthly cycles. And I didn't want that to be something that was fearful for them.
Yeah.
Because when I started, my mom was in the hospital.
Yeah.
And my stepdad at the time, my dad had passed away at an early age, he didn't know what to do with that, and so I didn't have anyone to talk to, and so it was a very scary time, and I just didn't want that, to happen unexpectedly. So what we decided to do is I had a great book series that I had been using and looking at, and basically I just decided to make it a mother-daughter trip because
yes.
I wanted them, to get that information from me,
yes,
not from any other source.
Yes. What was the name of the book?
I believe it's under the God's Design series, and I can't say the exact title off the top of my head, but it's through the God's Design series.
The one that I used, and it sounds similar, was called, it just flew right out of my head, Terri. I hate that. Okay, it was something about purity. Crap. Passport to Purity. Thank you, Rachel. Yes. It's called Passport to Purity.
People have used that.
It's so good.
My friends have used that.
It's so good.
That wasn't the one I had, but the neat thing was being able to take the girls away separately because at the time, obviously, they're 3 years apart. The first daughter being an introvert, I knew she liked the mountains and the outdoors, so we got a cabin. And we had a nice dinner together. And then when we got back, to the cabin, that's when I was able to talk to her and explain to her how her body was going to be changing over the next couple of years so that she wouldn't be fearful, but also I knew being homeschooled, she still went to church where there were definitely public and private and homeschooled kids.
Yep.
And I knew she was going to start hearing things.
Yep.
And I just wanted her to hear the right words
Yep.
and the right information. So
Yep.
I used the anatomical words.
Which is what?
Like saying vagina, saying penis, not saying, that little thing.
Your little tutu, your little tutu, and his beanie.
Exactly. But I will confess, my daughter's first words when I told her about the whole monthly cycle was, ew.
Yes, it is ew.
I know.
It is ew.
It is, but, I let her know that's how, her two younger brothers and sister came along. I let her know that there was a purpose that God designed for the woman's body for that.
Yes.
Getting it in preparation for that baby. And so it was such a sweet and tender time. And for each girl, I did something different so that they knew it was, individually designed for them.
Yep. I did the same exact thing with my daughters, and my husband took the sons. Same exact thing. It was a weekend. We actually did it twice. So we did it at 11 and 12. And they got a promise ring. My boys got promise necklaces. But they had a sweet time with their dads talking all about it. And then I had the sweet time with my older daughters talking about it. I think it's a bonding experience. And it's something that you can always reference back to, you know what I mean? And keep bringing it up and keep talking about it. And then, after you get the anatomical terms, whatever, then you can start getting to the juicy stuff talking about it. You'd be amazed at the kind of conversations about sex I have with my kids now. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
The next segment might just change your life. This is The Dani Johnson Show.
Prior to getting started with DaniJohnson.com and First Steps to Success, we were spending absolutely every dime that we made. We were really struggling financially. Since plugging in to First Steps to Success just 4 months ago, we started a brand new business that is doing very, very well. We've paid off $4,500 in debt, but the most important thing is my relationship with my husband has improved dramatically. I mean, we have so much more fun together. I don't know about you, maybe your finances, you're doing great, maybe you're debt-free, maybe your relationships with your spouse, with your family are great. But if not, if you have some areas in your life that feel a little out of control or there's things that you need to work on, I highly recommend getting to First Steps to Success as soon as you can.
Prior to being dragged out to First Steps to Success, I was hopeless. I had no point to life. It was a day-to-day existence, working a job I despised for people I didn't respect. Deeper and deeper debt every year. You just couldn't get on top of it. I just had no hopes or dreams, none at all, and there was no point to life. But since coming out, we paid off $280,000 worth of debt, married the woman of my dreams. I came to love my job and the people I work for. I have all kinds of hopes and dreams. I get to watch them happen every day. I don't know what your life is like, There's probably tons of hope. You probably know why you live and you got places you're going, but if you don't, you need to sign up for First Steps to Success. You go to DaniJohnson.com and you click on it and be here, because your life will not be the same if you do.
Prior to First Steps to Success, I was drowning in debt, I was terrified of my bills, and I wanted to travel, but I never had the money. And since coming to First Steps to Success, in the last 14 months, I've paid off over $18,000 in debt. I've gone on 6 vacations, and I'm not terrified of my bills anymore. So if you want to learn some proven strategies to really learn how to connect with people, take your life to the next level, all while having a total blast, you need to get registered for the next First Steps to Success today.
Prior to coming to First Steps to Success, we were totally struggling, totally under the weight of $640,000 worth of debt, making $20,000 a month, but living paycheck to paycheck. So when we came here, and I realized that it takes a totally different skill set to keep money, to create wealth than it is to make money, I have totally turned around our lifestyle. We have paid off $640,000 worth of debt in 2 years. We are debt-free as of June of 2013. I don't know where you're at. You might have all your finances in order. You might have a wonderful life. Your marriage might be all perfect and your kids are behaving. But if not, if one of those things is lacking, you gotta get here. Book your next event. You need to be here. You will not regret it.
Imagine living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel made of waste material on top of old mining tunnels that could explode and sink your home at any moment. Imagine no water to drink, no safe place to raise your children, no food for your starving baby. Imagine that your kids can't learn to read because they have to work to support the family instead of going to school. Could you imagine living in that kind of fear and hopelessness? This is exactly what poverty-stricken families are dealing with in Nicaragua. These families can barely meet their basic needs of food, clean water, and safe housing. But a miracle is in the making, and you can be a part of transforming Nicaragua. Be a part of this miracle. I want you to go to the website now and learn how you can help. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Nicaragua. There you can join with other warriors against poverty and help bring a miraculous transformation. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org.
Helping you become all you were meant to be. And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
Okay, well, listen, you certainly have been equipped with some good ideas about how to have the courage to get out there and have that conversation. You are your kid's advocate. You are not their friend. Now, an advocate also is a friend, but the advocate sees things from 30,000 feet in the air. They see the trouble that is ahead, and they help to prepare that young person for the real life that they're going to have, the real life challenges that they are going to face. Now, you know, there are always things that we can do to improve ourselves, and maybe you feel like, darn, I should have had that conversation and I didn't. I don't care how old your kid is. Have the conversation. Maybe even say, I'm so sorry. I really wished I would have said things differently. Please forgive me. I don't know. I can't even give you an excuse as to why I didn't or why I said it the way I did. But I just want to make things right with you right now because I feel like I kind of messed up. I was kind of learning when I was raising you. And you're going to be learning when you raise your kids too. So I think it would be a good idea that if you feel like, man, you might have missed it there, you can have that conversation and say sorry. It will mean something to your kid. It really will. And it'll help to build some trust, even deeper level of intimacy with your child that you think you already have. There's nothing wrong with going deeper, is there? No way. There's nothing wrong with that. So we want to see you succeed in every area of your life. And I know the pain and suffering I brought on my family and my high school sweetheart's family because of my teen pregnancy. A lot of pain, a lot of shame that teen pregnancy brought on, especially his parents. They were really well known in the little town that we were in, really well known in the church and in the little private school. It was just really bad. I caused a lot of pain because I chose to say yes to that temptation of sex out of marriage. So, hey, if nothing else, you can get your kids to listen to the show. That might be the icebreaker for you, right? You can use this program as a total icebreaker to even just start having the conversation. There was so much good stuff that was talked about, so many great perspectives. And so use this as a tool. In fact, let's do this right now. Let's beat these odds. Come on. We're talking 12% and 12% of the girls and 14% of the boys that keep their virginity. Really? Come on. Everybody is losing it by the time they are 17. You and I can make a difference. Let's change a life. Let's save some lives. Let's actually prevent some abortions too. By how? Share today's show. Share it right now on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Share it right now through your email and even through text. You can copy the URL right from our website or even on YouTube. And by the way, if you have not joined us on our YouTube channel, please subscribe to Dani Johnson Live. That's also how you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Dani Johnson Live. Share this. Let's just let this thing go viral like crazy because so many many parents are either ashamed to have the conversation, or they think because they messed up in the past that they shouldn't have the conversation, or they shouldn't have a standard of trying to protect their kids' future. There's so many reasons why this needs to happen. So please share it right now. And by the way, if you want help with raising those kids with less stress, get a hold of Grooming the Next Generation for Success today. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
If this episode was an encouragement to you, go to DaniJohnson.com and share it with your friends now. You never know who else needs to hear it. This has been The Dani Johnson Show. Join us every weekday at 7 a.m. for more insights that will help you get to the life you've always wanted.